Happy Halloween, boys and ghouls! It is me, Royce Miller, here with another. Well, it's not an unboxing because I already unboxed it yesterday, but it is still a sort of a product review, I guess you could call it. Viewer beware, you're in for a scare. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Haunted Mask 2. I wanted to start singing the Ramones' Pet Cemetery for this one because this actually kind of has to do with, well, not Pet Cemetery specifically, but something like that. Look at this ugly motherfucker. Truly the actual most unloved of the unloved. But what is the Haunted Mask 2? Well, let me tell you. So, I think even those who do not specifically remember Goosebumps remember the story of Carly Beth. Carly Beth was a girl with an anxiety disorder, basically, who was tormented by bullies and was abused by basically everyone in her life. She wanted to feel power over them. She coveted the feeling of what it would be like to be fearless and be the one scaring people. That led her to a mask shop where in the back she found several masks of increasing disgusting and horrifying visage. And she takes one and she does, well, I think in the book she does buy it, but in the show she takes it and leaves money. And she puts the mask on, and it fuses to her face. When she goes back, she comes to realize that the masks are not just masks. They are living flesh that the mask shop owner created to hide a horrifying, scar, or his actual face, because he scarred himself in a lab accident as a scientist. But because of his own intense self-loathing, the masks became corrupted and evil, becoming the unloved. And in the sequel, The Haunted Mask 2, one of her bullies ends up also getting one of these masks. Enter Steve, who is very different depending on if you watched the TV episode or read the book. I read the book and then watched the TV episode, and let me tell you something, the TV episode is garbage, the book is actually really good. Well, pretty good, I should say. Okay, so Steve is like a bully. He is an asshole. He gets caught doing a prank and has to do community service helping coach Pee Wee soccer. So he's like an 8th grader, and he's got to teach 3rd graders soccer. He's got to help coach third graders at soccer. And those kids make his life a living hell not because they're bad kids, but because he's kind of a jerk. They are, they are annoying to him. And also, I have to imagine in this town they're in, it's a nameless town in somewhere America. I have to imagine that, they know Steve's a prankster, and so they want to play jokes on him, too, to try to, be like, oh, hey, we're cool like you, man. Because that's kind of how 8-year-old minds work. When I was in 3rd grade, I hit a kid with a super soaker, a high school kid. Him and his friends tossed me into a pool in one of our neighbors' backyards. I didn't know the kid. I just did it because I thought it was funny. There isn't a lot of impulse control when you're that age. He still shouldn't have done what he did, though. Honestly, my parents should have kicked his ass. But, that's neither here nor there. Um, I was the instigator. However, I could have drowned probably, like getting thrown into a pool by a bunch of assholes. Anyway, so Steve wants to scare them the way Carly Beth scared him, and So he basically threatens Carly Beth to get her to tell him where he got the mask, and so he goes to the mask shop. It's getting packed up. The scientist is deciding to move out of town, and he breaks into the basement and opens up a crate and finds this aged, decaying green skin, spiders in his hair, a chunk of flesh dripping off the forehead, leading to gray bone underneath. Yes, the return of the Art of Goosebumps, well, the Tim Jacobus Goosebumps book, or Tim Jacobus Art of Goosebumps. Blech. Oh. And where Carly Beth's mask was like, it's interesting because you can kind of almost see the reflections of um the mask salesman in his masks. Like, this one, he clearly felt uncomfortable about his age. He was getting older. Carly Beth's mask, he was constantly probably very angry and lashing out at people. That's why it was so bestial when Carly Beth wore it. You know, she was she. It was almost like a werewolf thing, or Hulk, I think would be more appropriate. Um, and as Steve wears the masks and it fuses to him, like, he has to eat with one tooth, and like he's got spiders in his hair. He feels the skin hanging off of his skull. And the only thing keeping him going is the idea of the revenge he's going to get on Halloween. He is going to scare the piss out of those kids. He shambles up to them, groaning and moaning like a zombie. And they take pity on him. They don't see a monster. They see a helpless old man. He collapses because he's so exhausted because he's ancient. Like this, 12-year-old kid turned ancient. That was 8th grade, so that'd be like 14, I guess. I don't know. Turned ancient by the cursed mask. They pick him up, and he asks them to help him get to Carly Beth's house because he knows that she has dealt with this before. And so she takes him to the, she basically says, like, well, okay, I was able to get it off because I had a symbol of love. My mom's bust of me gave me this anchor point that I was able to reclaim myself from the mask. And so he thinks, and the only thing he can think of are his mom's cookies are the cookies that his mom buys for him because she knows they're his favorite. And they get back to his house. His dog has eaten all the cookies. So then Carly Beth was like, well, what if he's your symbol of love? Tries rubbing the dog on his face, and he's like, God damn it, that's not working either. So they go back to the mask shop, unable, can't even imagine what else to do. And they find a crate of costumes next to the masks. And they realize that the costumes correspond to the masks. Which is a little weird because, again, these are synthetic flesh faces that are meant to accompany these are synthetic flesh faces that were made to cover a disfigurement. They technically shouldn't come with a costume unless, again, there is a fascinating subplot here about the mask salesman own like inner self hatred being so virulent and toxic that it poisons the very clothes on his body. Anyway, so Carly Beth picks up one of the costumes. It's like a funeral tux. It's covered in spiders and cobwebs, like the old man mask's hair. And she's like, "Oh, it actually looks pretty cool. It really goes with your mask." And then the mask starts itching on his face. He's like, "Ah, ah, ah!" The mask flies off, latches onto the costume. It kicks up and, like, runs out the door. And I'm just like, what? What? It's interesting that there might be, like, if we're still operating, like, because again, haunted mask. The term haunted mask is doing a lot of heavy lifting here when the original conceit is that they are synthetic flesh. Um, and I don't mean like latex. I mean like this man has grown a face in his lab to wear. Grown a, like how we have lab grown meat now. People made a mammoth meatball. They they made a flesh. They made enough flesh from a. They managed to replicate enough flesh from a mammoth that they could make a meatball out of it, which is really weird to think about. But that's where science is right now. We're at that weird in between stage where we can't fully clone a mammoth yet, but we are able to replicate enough of its cells that we can make meat products from it. They're just very expensive to make. Um. Anyway, the TV episode, and then of course it ends on a twist with Steve's friend, the other bully who tormented Carly Beth. He actually got another mask latched onto him, but hey, at least they know what to do now. If you can't find a symbol of love, just go hunt down the corresponding costume, and it will leap off into the night. Anyway, the TV episode is actually pretty subpar in comparison to me, because the because old or because this gets really weird. The the haunted mask from the first book and episode is brought back to life by Halloween and possesses the mask salesman and wants to take back Carly Beth, which is weird because, like, if we want to get technical, the mask salesman is literally his. The mask salesman is literally his old host anyway, so technically, wouldn't he want to realign with his original host? Or, I don't know. I remember there's this old wives' tale about the original haunted mask props from the episode being based on the seven deadly sins, and my thought process was that the mask Carly Beth took was envy because it was green and because Carly Beth was envious of the power people had over her. She was literally scared by her brother wearing a duck costume. That's how. That's how. That's how easy she was to scare. But, like, Steve actually did torment her. He fed her a worm. And keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. Like, Steve fed her a live worm, stuck it in her sandwich, while she wasn't looking. Anyway. So, same basic setup as before, where Steve wants a mask for, I guess, just to be scary. There isn't the setup of the kids in the TV episode, which again, you're missing like a key point of motive. Oh God, I'm tired. Oh, 1 second. Sorry. But yeah, so the motive is a bit strange, but basically, he threatens Carly Beth. Carly Beth tells him where she got the mask, and he goes there, but it looks all closed down. But then the mask salesman possessed by a haunted mask gives him this mask, and he gets possessed, and then so now instead of him being alone in this, he is being manipulated and threatened by the mask salesman, who basically tells him, after the mask is stuck on him, that he will only save him, like, get the mask off of him, if he helps her capture Carly Beth. But then in the end, he saves Carly Beth, and that's his symbol of love. But, like, first off, it doesn't make a lot of sense when the idea of the symbol of love it's like this psychological anchor point. You know what I mean? It's like how when Achilles' mother dipped the baby in sticks, she didn't put her fingers in, so she kept the heel out, the heel of her baby out. Um, it is a it is an emotional way to assert your identity and to kind of like And again, I'm overthinking a kid's book like this. It even though it stars eighth graders, this book is targeted at like third and fourth graders. Um, I was probably in fifth grade when I read it, but neither here nor there. Look. You read a lot of books if you want to get that personal pan pizza. Oh, Bucket, you were a magical thing. Um, I will say too, like, this actually is, I think, an improvement. Like, okay, hold on 1 second here. Ugh. Is that Deep Trouble 1 or... Okay, it's Deep Trouble 1. Sorry, I'm trying to find Haunted Mask 1. Oh, what a dummy. Yeah. There it is. Okay. This is one of my favorite covers because I love the design of the Haunted Mask. However, you can see that it's very bland. Or like, framing wise. It's this very, like, Carly Beth is kind of almost framed like portraiture. Like, yeah, her hands are raised up to hold the mask, but it is just her straight on. It's got this weird fish-eyed lens. You have a lot of like the classic uh, uh, Jim Jacobus isms of the time, which is sneakers, jeans, like this awkward angle, the fog, the pumpkins. It's definitely a lot more Halloween-y. That light in the background looks really good. You can also see some of like the designs that it went through previously, and they're just like old man masks. Like these don't look like scary. These look like Ed Asner. um, let's talking about how like the trick or treat bags before the rise of like plastic pumpkins were just pillow sacks. Anyway, but like you can see that, yeah. you can see a definite uptick in style and quality. Just not necessarily content. Again, like, I hate to say it, but R.L. Stine was kind of secondary to Tim Jacobus in the popularity of Goosebumps, I think, because Goosebumps was a style over substance series, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, a lot of the Goosebumps stuff was very cool and creepy. You know, you had it was such a good, it was a really good vibe, if you get my drift. But there were, there were interesting concepts Stein touched upon. And the Haunted Mask 2, I think, is one of the best in concept, anyway. Not necessarily execution, but concept. The fear of getting old. Believe it or not, this is a very common thing. Mitch Albom in The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. When our main character first gets to heaven, he starts off very young feeling, but as he progresses, he feels older and older, and it is compared to decaying. Then you have, believe it or not, the Cronenberg Fly movie is about aging and terminal illness. Because, that is literally the author's intent. Now, due to the time frame it came out at, a lot of people gravitated toward it because of the AIDS pandemic. You know, there's this scene in the movie where, what is her name? League of Their Own, Thelma and Louise, Beetlejuice. I keep wanting to say Barbara, but that's just her character in Beetlejuice. Oh, this is gonna kill me. Not Catherine O'Hara. Anyway, there's a scene in The Fly where she hugs Jeff Goldblum, even though he does look disgusting. And I don't mean because he's turned into a fly. I mean because he's... And I don't mean because he's Jeff Goldblum. I mean because he's turning into a fly. God damn it. I was trying to avoid making that joke. Anyway. She hugs him, and, people in the comments when I watched a video of that recently were like, I can't believe she did that. I would never have the courage to do that. And that's a fascinating thing, because it's like when Princess Diana, had the photo thing with the AIDS patients. It's showing that these are not lepers who are going, these are not lepers, these are not people who are going to kill you just by touching you. These are people who need reassurance in the face of oblivion. But with Steve, it's never really grasped with a lot. All he feels are the physical effects of it. Being tired, everything hurting. Weirdly, cravings. He wants, when he first puts the mask on and, wakes up the next day with it, he wants a warm oatmeal, or he wants oatmeal and warm milk, and instead he forces himself to eat cornflakes and orange juice, and there's, a very disturbing, imagery in the book of him having to, mash the cornflakes with his gums because he only got one tooth, and his tooth clinking against the glass as he drinks his orange juice. It's ugh. Which reminds me, when I showed my brother this, he said, "Oh, look at the blowjob handles on that. I really should never have let him watch Deadpool and Wolverine." He says, "What's the wind resistance on them?" And finally, and I just, in a moment of feeling being an idiot, I said, "Oh, well, he's got no teeth, or he's got only one tooth, so it's a very smooth ride." Which is just vile to say. Oh, God. And, it's hard to deal with aging, Because at some point you have to admit to yourself the human species was not meant to live this long. Like, do you know why they set Social Security at 65? Because they didn't think most people were going to get there. And we see the degenerative effects people are going through now who live into advanced age, and it is horrifying. Or, how do you tell someone you love that, no, you shouldn't drive anymore, it's too dangerous? No, you shouldn't have, no, you shouldn't go out anymore, it's too dangerous. Like, I had to, when my grandpa John was still alive, my brother and I had gotten a accident on the way to Iowa, to Des Moines, wherever. Like, not a huge accident, we just got in a ditch. And the next day, we got stuck in an intersection again because of the intense snow. This was, I believe, winter of 2020 into 2021. And my grandpa was like, or Grandpa John came out to the living room and was like, okay, I'm gonna go shovel and drive somewhere. And we were like, John, no, it is too bad outside. And he was like, I'd be like, don't make us restrain you, old man. But, and like, part of me's like, would I have let Grandpa John do that if he were my age? And honestly, the answer's still no, because it was just that bad out. It wasn't about age. It was about the conditions. It was insane, okay? It was bad. Everything was covered in snow and ice. Also, I was the only one helping my grandpa shovel that winter, so I don't know if it was that time or a time before, but whatever. It was just, And there is this horror to that. And I think R.L. Stine was kind of feeling it when he wrote the book. He had this weird image of like what it would be like for a child to deal with the ravages of time. There's also a short story revolving around that, which, oh boy, don't read that short story. It's garbage. Prune Juice, I think it's called. What was I saying? And I think there is something interesting that the kid only focuses on the physical aspects of it because he's a kid. He doesn't know what's happening. Really, he just, to him this is being transformed into a monster. But we the audience are understanding that his body has aged into an old man. I don't know. Like, do you think when he turns into an old man, he'll be like, this isn't as bad as I remember? Or something like that. It'll be like Robin Williams in Jumanji going back in time to 1969, being a kid again, and aging forward to 95 normally. Anyway. This was supposed to have me in costume, in my closet cosplay that I was going to go as tonight to work. I was going to do John Hammond. I got my Panama hat, I got my cane, I got my dress shirt. But, I didn't want to bother with that right now. So anyway, I'm going to get off, go to bed. As you can tell by this rambling, I'm really tired right now. I almost said I love you guys. What the heck? Oh. November is going to be the start of the new members program. We're going to, again, like I said, cut out the superhero tier. It's just gonna be the sidekick tier. I'm still working on how I want to do that shout out thing. People were telling me I should just edit the credits into my videos, and I'm just like, oh, you sweet summer child, you don't know how I do things here, do you? This is all done on my phone, baby. I record the videos, post them on my phone because I am an idiot and don't know how to use editing software, nor do I have any editing software. If you are an editor and would like to help me make my content slightly less terrible, feel free to contact me. I will pay decent rates if I can afford them. Like I said, I could just give the shoutouts all at once, or I could do individual videos where I would open them up, where each new video I would open it up by saying, this video is sponsored by blank. Tell me what y'all think. Y'all have a good one. Source Miller, I'm Abby.